Welcome to the Webby and O'Neill show. You're joined by Tony O'Neill, and I'm going to be talking all things Manchester United. It's the only show that I come on where I actually basically have to introduce his show. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? But there we go.
Considering you've not been on for a long while, Gary, you must be watching the channel. Your introduction's getting a lot better, so I'll give you credit there, lad. I'm going to get straight into this. Got many questions. First one, Gary. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, David Brailsford, Joe Glazer, reports are that they're going to be running the football strategy. Does that excite you, Gary? And is there anything out there what tells you that they are going to make Manchester United able to compete with the European giants again?
Well, there's quite a few questions in one there. I mean, does it excite me? I don't think excite's the right word. I've got my doubts, but on the other hand, is it a step forward from where we are? Yeah, of course it is. I mean, Manchester United have operated now for 10 years without a sporting director. In Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill, they didn't need a sporting director because they had, to be fair, everything in two there. You know, they had sporting director, obviously great understanding of the business side. You had Sir Alex Ferguson, who was a manager of the club, not just a manager of the team. So he managed the football department and obviously selected the team and obviously, to be fair, won matches. That's obviously now a structure that doesn't exist in football anymore. Jim Ratcliffe and Dave Brailsford coming in, if that is true, and we're led to believe it is, it has to be better than just having the current situation, which is a boardroom that, to be fair, hasn't got them in. You'd like to think that the mistakes that every fan sees that, to be fair, are being made at this moment in time, that Jim Ratcliffe, the success that he's had in his business career and the success that he's had in his sporting career with obviously his different projects, he's not just going to come in and accept the ordinary. He's not going to accept average. He's not going to accept the poor standards that exist with the football stadium, with the facilities in the training ground. He's not going to accept a poor performance department or recruitment department, football department. He's not going to accept a second-rate one. He's not. He's going to want to be Manchester United or make Manchester United competitive with the best clubs in Europe. So is it a step forward? Yes. However, with the Glazer family still owning the majority of the club, and I still suspect having, the biggest influence, obviously, I do wonder how that's going to operate. I do wonder how that's going to sort of become cohesive and sort of coherent to internally, but also externally. We're all waiting, aren't we, to see what happens with it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've not heard from you, correct me if I'm wrong, your preference to what Manchester United actually needs. Is 25% minority shareholding the right way?
Well, no, I mean...
or 100%?
No, I mean, to be fair, I suspect Jim Ratcliffe thinks that taking over the complete control of the club would be the best thing. A man who's had unbelievable business success, that's built a business that's worth 20-30 billion pounds, who's had complete control of that business, he's not going to think that being a minority is the best way forward. So he's not going to think that. I think what he's probably been dealt is a hand whereby the Glazers have said, it's take it or leave it. And he's thinking, well, I want to get my foot in the door. And the fans start to recognise that there is some change. And with the pressure that then will come obviously for him to probably take over the rest of the shares, he might probably have a deal in place with the Glazer family to take it over. I suspect he won't take it over unless he's got some sort of deal in place to take the majority of the shares in the future. He wouldn't do that, I don't think. So I suspect he's thinking it's this or nothing at this moment in time, and then he can step in. The preference for Jim Ratcliffe, for you, for everybody would be 100% sale. Of course it would. Would you rather have Manchester United in the hands of an 100% shareholder who's committed and motivated, who's invested that money to make the club better? Or would you rather have it sat with partly with the Glazer family, partly with the New York Stock Exchange shareholders, and partly with obviously a minority shareholder, if that's Jim Ratcliffe, so that there's still that confusion of what could happen in the future? You wouldn't want that in any business. You'd want some sort of clarity.
Well, we have fans comment all the time on this minority stake and what they prefer and everything like that. But they don't see clarity and they don't see that change is coming as quickly as what's needed with the structure under this 25% minority stake, as he won't have control. If you look, and you're thinking it yourself by all accounts, is that the Glazers will still be in control. All the Glazers ever want, as far as I'm concerned, and the fans out there are saying, is top four, and that reason is for money. Now, at the end of the day, Glazers are still in charge. They will have the majority stake. So at the end of the day, their goal will be money. They're not
Yeah,
interested
what?
in anything else except
Well,
qualifying
look,
for top
no,
four.
but let's on it. Even as much as we don't think the Glazers are the right fit for the club anymore, or some people never thought they were the right fit, to be fair to them, I still think they'll want to win the league. I'm not daft enough to sit here and think that Joel Glazer...
It's not the priority.
No, but my point is, Tony, I'm not playing devil's advocate here. Joel Glazer will every year think, I want to win the league. Now, they're nowhere near it. What surprises me about the Glazer family, who have had success over in America, and they've seen success at Manchester United, is that they've not been more clinical and ruthless. With all the money that's been invested into the team over the last 10 years, they've still dilly-dallied around with the management, the leadership, the football department, the recruitment. They've still not been very definite. They've not changed it. I can't believe that they've not changed it in 10 years and made it sort of what would be... I mean, they made little changes, don't get me wrong, but they've not gone out and got best in class. So what does that tell me? As a fellow football club owner, if you don't want to bring a really top sporting director into your club, the reason you don't want to do that is because you want to retain control of the football department and the spending. Somebody with any competence or any credibility wouldn't come in as a sporting director at Manchester United if they thought they were going to be puppets for the owners. So that's why they've not brought in a really dominant sporting director, because they're scared of what basically could become unearthed. And Ralph Rangnick, to be fair, probably started to do that, and that's why they got him out quite quickly. If you remember, Ralph Rangnick was brought in by John Murtough as being a coach for a few months, and then the sporting director that was going to take over. As soon as he started unleashing the sort of truth about the club, they got him out of there as quickly as possible. So for me, look, I think the Glazers do want to win the league, but they also want to do it in a way which basically protects their position. And look, they are business people. They are going to be focused on money. They are going to be focused. I mean, they're hardly here. So the idea that sort of you can care for a business by not being there, I find that difficult. I'll be honest with you. I think that if a football club is a very emotional business asset, Manchester United is the biggest club in this country. To say that your owners don't come here, to say that you don't have that sort of what would be passion and feet on the ground, I find that really difficult anyway. But the reality is they've never done it in 20 years. They've always been passive. They've always been remote. They've always dealt with it that way. Sir Alex Ferguson's success and David Gill's leadership and the players on the pitch, I suppose, provided an umbrella for them for 10 years, 12 years when they first came in.
But won't that change, Gary? I mean, I want to push on, but I've got to ask this before I push on with other questions. Is Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in? Surely it will all change. He will remove everything what's in there.
But that's my point.
That goes down to Arnold and everybody.
Jim Ratcliffe is not going to come in unless he has some ability to affect change. He would not do that. I mean, I don't know Jim Ratcliffe. Never spoke to Jim Ratcliffe in my life.
But that's what you expect.
He'll never sign a deal with the Glazer family to come in and be a passive investor and not be able to impact the change at the club. He's not going to do that. He's going to have some power to be able to do something. He has to have it, or else he wouldn't come in. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if the deal fell over in the next few weeks because they won't give him the power he wants. Who determines the budget? Who decides when the manager's sacked? Who decides sort of the big football decisions that occur within a club? Who decides when the stadium gets rebuilt? Who decides when the training ground, what investments needed in the training ground? Who decides all these things? Who decides the football philosophy and values within the ownership committee? Because that football committee that you talk about, Dave Brailsford, Jim Ratcliffe and Joel Glazer, that isn't a football committee. That's a business and executive committee. They are obviously on behalf of a football club. They'll have to bring in someone beneath them who basically is a sporting director and designs these things with them. Now, to me, that person that comes in would need to be very experienced and have the ability to take on some of the best sporting departments in the world that we have in this country in different teams and obviously in Europe in different clubs. These clubs are masters at recruitment. They're masters at getting deals done. And it's different doing deals in normal business than it is in football. It's a bit like swimming with the sharks in football. And to be fair, United, I'd say probably a little bit too pure in the last 10 years, a little bit too nice. That they're a club that needs to have that, what would be real, whilst maintaining the values and standards of United, they need to have that clinical, ruthless edge to them in the transfer market, and they haven't got that. I think they get played far too often.
Yeah, well, I can agree with that one. Now, I just want to touch on something what's happened with Roy Keane. He comes out at Bruno. He said he would strip Bruno 100% of the captaincy. He was sat there with him. What's your opinion on what Roy said. Do you agree?
I can see exactly where Roy's coming from because honestly, I think if you said to Bruno at this moment in time, would you want to be captain? I don't know Bruno Fernandes at all. But for me, I think he's the most talented player. He's the only player that's come in the last, I think, 10 years. He's the only player that's come in. Juan Mata, I think, did quite well for the club, to be fair. But I can't think of many players that have come in and either met the demands of the price tag or have actually achieved the standards that we expected them to achieve. He's one of them. He's a brilliant player. I think Roy said that on Sunday, that he's an absolutely fantastic player. But for me, it feels like he's trying to be everything and everybody on the pitch. And he carries that emotion with him. And at the moment, when I look at him on the pitch on Sunday, I said with 10, 15 minutes to go, exactly what Bruno would do in that last 10, 15 minutes. He does it quite a lot. I personally would think it'd be better for Bruno. You know, if there was a Steve Bruce or a Roy Keane in that dressing room now, and Bruno could just sit there as a talented player, fantastic, great player, world-class talent, and play, that would be the best thing for Bruno Fernandes. I don't think at this moment in time Erik Ten Hag will take the captaincy off him. So I can see where, people would think that, should we take the captaincy off him? I can see why Erik Ten Hag won't do, because that would be another massive disruption. But I don't think to start with he should have been made captain. It was quite clear when you were watching him when Ronaldo was there, when you were watching him when, towards sort of, I think it was the probably middle of last season, it was obvious that he wasn't the perfect captain for the group, right? But I think he is the best player in the team. I think he's the best player in the club, and I think he's our most valuable player. I think he needs to be fair. If he had anything, I think he'd get to the end of the season and he'd say, look, captaincy isn't for me, is what I would think. Because my view on it would be that he needs to be someone who goes out onto that pitch and just concentrate on his own performance, gets back to thinking that he doesn't have to be basically everywhere on the pitch. He doesn't have to think about everyone else's performance. He doesn't have to speak to the referee every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
A captain, has to be clever with the referee. It took me a long time to work out that a referee isn't going to respond to you if you're actually having a go at them all the time. You need to actually be, they're not the friend of the referee, but you
the
need
referee knows before that they're going to have a duel with Bruno.
They know what to expect now from Bruno. He literally is talking and chatting and moaning at the referee every 10 seconds in the game, it feels like.
Yeah.
That is not helping Bruno. It's not helping the team, but it's not helping it's not helping the performance on the pitch with the referee, because the referee's not going to basically sit there and say, yeah, Bruno, of course. So for me at this moment in time, I know exactly where Roy was coming from, that to be fair, he doesn't look like he has got the characteristics that would suit him being captain, that it would suit the team for him to be captain, or suit even the fact that the way in which he deals with the referee. I think it'd be better if there was someone else a lot calmer. But who in that dressing room at this moment in time, they've taken it off Harry Maguire. They're not going to give it back to Harry. They're just not. And the fact of the matter is, I would have questioned that decision to start with. I think once you start taking the captaincy off people and they're still in the dressing room, I think you have got a problem then. You have got a problem, because the reality of it is, how's Harry going to feel? And people might say, I don't care how Harry feels, but he is an important player in the dressing room. And he is certainly probably, I would imagine, friends with all the other players that are in the dressing room who are on his side.
Harry Maguire, it was revealed, was actually the third choice. Two other players were asked to be captain before he actually took it. What's your reaction to two players in the Manchester United squad turning down the opportunity to be captain of this great club, Gary? I mean, that to me wouldn't have done Harry Maguire any favours in that dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, that came out, obviously, was that the Ollie interview?
The Ollie interview.
I mean, look, when I saw that, and what I've just said, though, about Bruno is that some players I don't think suit the captaincy, partly because they take all the weight of the world on their shoulders and think they have to be something they're not. I always remember when I was given the captaincy and Roy left, and I never wanted Roy to leave. No one wanted Roy to leave in our dressing room. He was our captain, the man, that's it. No one else was captain. We knew Roy was our captain. So when I took over, I made a decision straight away. I knew, one, I was nowhere near Roy Keane as a captain.
Yeah.
I was nowhere near Roy Keane as a player. And I was nowhere near Roy Keane in terms of the influence that he had in the dressing room over the other players. So I just had to be, basically, I made a decision. I was just going to be Gary Neville, the football player, who worked his absolute hardest every single day, set good standards, made sure that the young players worked as hard as they possibly could, knew the experienced players were already in a good place anyway, so you didn't have to do anything with them. Don't try and exaggerate your position. Don't try and make yourself out to be, I'm the lead now, I've got the armband on. And I think there's an element of, to be fair, some players don't want that armband round their thingy. And for the first few weeks that I was captain, I felt it, Tony.
Yeah?
I felt it, because it's like, one, I wasn't Roy Keane. I was nothing like him. I was mediocre in, to be fair, talent side to him. And I was, people used to walk. Roy Keane used to walk out at the front of our dressing room, at the front of out the tunnel onto the pitch. The other team would recognise Roy Keane's the captain. They would. He'd have an impact on them. That getting beat in the tunnel before you go out, that was never going to happen with me. Never.
Do you think the same happened with Harry Maguire, though? That players from other teams recognised that this wasn't the giant stature of a Manchester United captain, or did it weigh, or has it weighed on Harry Maguire?
I think Harry's respected, and so's Bruno. To be fair. In other dressing rooms, as football players, they'll both be respected. We can have a go at our players all you like, right? They're going through a bad time at the moment, but Bruno Fernandes, to be honest with you, I think would sit in any Manchester United team through history. I'm not saying he'd get in front of Keane and Scholes, for people are going to start throwing that back at me now. But what I'm saying to you is he could play football in any Manchester United team in history. Harry Maguire is a good centre-back. Let's be really clear about that. And Harry Maguire, let's say the back four was Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, Harry Maguire and Patrice Evra. Harry Maguire would be a fucking fantastic player. However, if you put Gary Neville in that back four now there on Sunday, I'd look pretty crap straight away. What I'm saying to you is it's the environment you come into and the team you come into. I'm really wary of saying that these players are X, these players are Y. Honestly, Tony, we've got a cultural issue at the club at the moment and an embedded negativity from within.
I'm going to touch on it soon.
Right, that means that those players are in a difficult moment and they're suffering badly. You'll see, I thought it got to the unbelievable point. Do you think Scott McTominay cares?
I think he cares.
Right, okay, stop there. Do you think he works as hard as he possibly can?
I think so.
Yeah, I do. The other week, there were videos of Scott McTominay circling around on social media where, he's not trying, he's not running back, he's not doing this. When you start to say that about young players who've come through the ranks, who've come through the academy, who would die out on that pitch for the club, because I'm sure he would. I know he would. I don't know him. I've never spoken to him in my life, by the way. So this is nothing through personal experience. Okay. I can just see a kid that's desperate. I went through a period in my career for about 6 months where the weight of the shirt, I'd lost my confidence. I made a couple of mistakes. And literally I felt like I couldn't move on the pitch because I felt like the weight was on my shoulders. And it could be accused of not trying your best. That is not where these players are at. They're not at that. They're not where honestly, they're not trying their best.
But I have to stop you there, Gary, because, what's happening with Marcus Rashford? He's been brought through. He knows it. And you
don't think he's trying his best?
No, I'm just going to point out to you. You know the criticism out there coming from fans, the media and everything about his performances. Andy Cole turned around recently and I agreed with him that it looks as though, as a striker, you're not putting it in, you struggle, your confidence goes. And the best thing for you, even though as a player you don't want to come off, is to be taken out of that environment. Should Marcus Rashford taken out?
I was at United, but I was at United when fans would say that about Andy Cole, when fans would say that about Dimitar Berbatov, when fans would say that about certain players that you knew full well were trying their best, but they just basically, they were either low in confidence, they had different styles of play. And to me, it takes all different types to win football matches. Marcus Rashford is a talented player, right? He loves Manchester United and he'll want Manchester United to do well. Yep. At the moment, it's not going for him. He's lost his confidence.
Yes.
And to be fair, they all have. Yep. They've all lost their confidence. They've lost 5 in 10, haven't they? 5 in 10.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
So you're talking about a club that's never had as bad a start as this. The things going on off the pitch, the things going on the pitch, the things going on in the dressing room, things going on with the captaincy being taken off Harry, then it's going to Bruno, and then all of a sudden that's Antony's situation. They've had the Greenwood situation. They've had the ownership situation, all these things. I know people say just concentrate on your game. I genuinely think that when you work in a cycle, in a circle of negativity like they are, I honestly don't think you can come out of it that quickly. I saw it with England a couple of times in my career, whereby England managers got sacked and we were playing so badly and the performances were so awful that you just think, how did that happen? And it's just happened. And for me, Marcus Rashford is a talent. He had an unbelievable season last year. He's having a big dip at the moment. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater as well. And I'm talking about Bruno here, Marcus Rashford. Some of these players are really talented that we're talking about. They're really talented players. And I'm trying to think of others, to be fair, in the squad at this moment in time that, are getting a little bit of stick. That you think, well, actually, with a fair wind, and a bit of confidence, they actually, to be fair, are really good players.
Has things changed inside that club? We talk about the confidence. Obviously, we know Erik Ten Hag's under pressure. But has he brought himself under pressure, Gary, with the situation with Jadon Sancho by banishing him away from it? Do you think that certain players inside that club have reacted and sided with Jadon Sancho?
I don't know. But look, when you make it, look, Manchester United managers should make big decisions. Last season, we wanted him to make big decisions. We wanted him to instill discipline and that sort of what would be control. I was surprised at the Jadon Sancho one, purely just because he'd been given some time off for mental health issues a few months before.
Yeah.
And then obviously a few months later, he's been banished and sort of, basically told that he'd not trained well enough. So I did think that was strange at the time. Look, we're talking about Erik Ten Hag being under pressure. He's under pressure mainly because of the results and the performances. The only decent performance I've seen this season was the last round of the Carabao Cup against Crystal Palace, where I really enjoyed that performance. But he's under pressure naturally, as he should be, of a manager that's lost 5 in 10. But I don't think any fan that I know of, I honestly, for me, it's not even a question. Erik Ten Hag, he needs time. He should be given time. He should be given the time to basically correct the squad, do what he wants with the squad, get the football he wants to be played in the squad. And the fact of the matter is, I think that's the last thing that we should even be talking about as United fans, is putting Erik Ten Hag under pressure. He'll get put. Of course, we should be saying, I don't think he had his best day on Sunday with the derby, because we can say that. But that shouldn't reflect into, we want him out. Absolutely not. I think he had a great season last year. I still think there's plenty of time to get this season right. I'm talking to you before the Carabao Cup game against Newcastle, and there's 8,000 Geordies coming down tonight. And I'm wondering what we're going to do, whether it's going to be a younger team or whether it's going to be our, quote, best team, senior team. But I think we need to win, because I don't think we can afford to go out of the Carabao Cup. I think we need to keep that competition alive, because we are on the scraps otherwise. We're not going to win the league. The Champions League's a distant memory at this moment in time. I don't feel like we never get there for a few years. I feel like the FA Cup and Carabao Cup are the trophies we can really compete in.
You see, I agree with you on giving Erik Ten Hag time. Fans out here agree the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of people. There's no momentum to get him out, only from the hysterical ones, which you get everywhere. But the thing is, Gary, if there's no results and the performances don't improve, will these owners panic, as we've seen before?
Honestly, I don't think they're going to sack him at all. Partly because he shouldn't be sacked, partly because they will believe in him, partly because he's done a very good job so far, apart from the first few games this season. Last season, he did a great job. He brought success back to the club with a trophy. He won. He got to the Champions League, got into Champions League places, and got to the FA Cup final as well. So I think that was a really successful season. And we're only 10 games into this season. So for me, absolutely it won't be on the table for discussion, I don't think, by any stable United fans won't be thinking about sacking Erik Ten Hag. And the owners also...
Before the transfer window, you don't think so? If the I'm on about the owners, not the fans.
Then a new manager comes in, they have to pay off all the coaching staff that Erik Ten Hag's got. Then they're going to have to go and spend a load more money on a new manager's wishes. They already have had the Ralph Rangnick experiment of 5 months interim job. He's not going anywhere, and he shouldn't go anywhere, and the owners won't be thinking he's going anywhere. Honestly, he's not. Honestly, look, of course, he'll come under pressure if the results continue as they are, but the reality of it is he will not come under pressure this season at all from the ownership.
Okay, I have to challenge you on that, because at the end of the day, Gary, you look around football and the way it is. I'm not arguing with you.
But we keep changing managers,
Tony.
No.
I look.
We keep changing managers.
Yeah, we do. But I also.
When are we going to work out that Jose Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, David Moyes, now Ralph Rangnick, and now Erik Ten Hag, they can't all just be bad managers when they come to Manchester United? They have been good managers, are good managers. And then you think about the players that have come here, and we've been excited about the players that have come here, and then they've all of a sudden not achieved their potential. There is something fundamentally wrong.
We know that. We know there's something fundamentally wrong with the transfer policy. The people implementing it.
So let's take Harry Maguire. Let's take
Antony.
Let's take Harry Maguire, though, for instance. Manchester City wanted him for 60, 70 million quid. United outbid them.
Yeah.
My point is, Manchester City wanted Alexis Sanchez. Other clubs have wanted players that we've signed. Arsenal wanted Lisandro Martinez at one point, and Manchester United paid more.
Yeah.
So my point is, United have signed players that other top clubs have wanted, but when they've come here, they've not been able to do the business. So you've got to ask the question, let's blame the manager. But then managers have come here with great reputation, some of the best in the world, great experience, and they've not been able to succeed. So we honestly, I think we've gone past that. In my mind, blaming manager. Of course, we've got to ask the manager. I said on Sunday it wasn't a good day for Erik Ten Hag,
No.
and I was critical of some of the players, quite a few of the players in the last 20 minutes, half an hour. Right, that still happens, by the way. This idea that people think that I or others just talk about the Glazer family after a defeat. They forget the fact that actually have questioned Erik Ten Hag's substitutions, said that he didn't have a good day, said that obviously that in the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, Rashford was poor when he walked off and he was sulking, said that basically Bruno was poor in the last 10 minutes with his behaviour, that Antony was a disgrace when he came on. All those things came out of my mouth. Said that back four should never be that back four in a derby for Manchester United. That back four is a back four from 10 years ago. So my point is, all these things I've said, but let's not lose sight of the fundamental issue that really good players with good reputations and good managers with good reputations come to our club and they don't succeed. Why is that?
I've got to take you back because we was having a little bit of a set to on it. And I'll tell you this, Gary, as I see it, and a lot of people out there see it, okay, with managers, it's a results business. And if you don't get them results, you're out of the door.
Oh, I know that.
Right?
I know
that's
that.
what I'm saying. But you're confident, and this is what I don't understand, and many other people out there probably won't understand, right? Is that you're confident with the way this club is, the way it's been structured, and the way managers have come and gone at Manchester United, that you think that they'll give him time. And based on the performances and these results, if these carry on, Gary, I don't see how that can happen where he will begin. I want him to have 3 years. Lots of people out there exactly the same. I'm on the same level as you. But it's what I fear and whatever match-going fans fear. I talk to a lot of them, and they fear that these owners will fire the bullet based on the results and the performance.
Well, look, Tony, you could be right and I could be wrong. I don't think they'll fire the bullet at all this season. I think Erik Ten Hag will be in place. I think he'll be given time to try and get it right. And I think that this will be deemed as a period whereby it was bad. This has been a really bad.
Oh, it is bad.
This has been. I mean, look, the performances are so bad. You know, when United fans speak to me and say, "What do you think of United?" I go, "The performances are awful." So what excited me about that last Carabao Cup game against Crystal Palace was I saw some resemblance of a football team. The passing, the patterns, the bits of sort of connections and combinations that you see when a team is in unity. When I watch us sort of in the other games against Brighton at home or Brentford or Sheffield United away, City's a bit of an anomaly. Let's just park that game. Yeah. But even against those teams that we beat in those few weeks, Burnley away, it was average. It wasn't very good. So I'm thinking, even if you're playing badly, City have had some bad results recently, by the way. They've lost a few games. They've lost against Wolves, lost against Newcastle.
I didn't think that was the best City side.
It wasn't. And they lost to Arsenal as well. So they've lost 3 games recently, but you still see how they're trying to play. At the moment, there is a question of what's happening because we've got that many injuries. So he can't get his football out from the back. He can't play from the back. He can't play through midfield because he wants Casemiro back in there, probably with Amrabat. Bruno's being moved from here out to there. Mount's not quite settled into a position yet. So we are a little bit all at sea, partly because of a bad start to the season, but injuries, I think, have contributed to that. When we get all our players back, and then we're sort of a fully fit squad, I think at that point then we'll judge it as the season goes on. Let's not even think and start sort of, if you like, letting that snowball run down the hill with the manager, because
I don't want to think that way.
No, I just don't think we should. Honestly, he's got a lot of injuries. He's, to be fair, done a brilliant job last year. He's achieved great success in his first season that I think is relative success. I was hoping this year would be a progression up again and we'd get close. I didn't think we'd win the league. None of us did. But I thought we'd get closer and we'd see. When Jurgen Klopp took 4 years, 5 years to win the league, I was hoping we'd have that little steps. Maintain last season, but just that little bit more so that people think, right, okay, there's a stability now to this. What's happened with Ole, with Louis van Gaal and with Jose, they've all had these pretty promising seasons and then they've gone like that. Now, what we've got to do is when we go like that now, is we've got to say, right, okay, let's let him at least come back out the other side of it.
That's what we hope. Now, before we go, one last question, definitely. Transfer policy. People don't think it's been good enough. It's been poor.
That's the club's fault.
Yeah, we know that. We know it's the club's fault. But what it is, I want your opinion on 2 players, okay? Do you think these are the right signings for Manchester United? Mason Mount, I want your opinion on him, Gary, and also Antony. Is he the right player for Manchester United?
I find it really difficult at this moment in time to judge any player in that dressing room because I've seen them play at higher levels at other clubs. So forget the fees. Would they have paid 90 million for Antony? No. No club would. But that's Manchester United. What we do in this last 10 years. We overpay. And then Mason Mount, would I have said he was a priority in the summer? Probably not.
No.
55 million quid. I wouldn't have said that was a priority position because we've got Eriksen, we've got Bruno Fernandes, we've got players who can create and move in those types of number 10 spaces. I would have said that probably isn't a priority for us at this moment in time. But he's a good football player.
Yes.
Mason Mount's a good football player. And he's a good professional. So let's be clear about that. So I think the recruitment, Erik Ten, what they've done, and it's with this manager again. The manager has had a bit of success, and they've allowed the manager to dictate the transfer policy. Any club that operates well has a clear system of play. They have a clear recruitment strategy, and players have to fit into those profiles of those positions that they go and chase. Manchester United allow the manager that comes in to too heavily influence the transfers and recruitment of players into the club. That's a fact. There is no doubt that the club should have been tougher last summer when we got beat by Brighton, we got beat by Brentford, and it was before that Monday Night Football against Liverpool, and there was a big crisis on, there were lots of protests. They went and panicked and bid for Casemiro and Antony. That wasn't the plan.
Is that the manager doing that, or people inside the club?
If you remember, the manager wanted Frankie de Jong, which was, to be fair, a very different player than Casemiro. Antony, to be fair, Ajax couldn't believe that they offered that much money for him. They'd already done their business for the summer, Ajax, by letting Lisandro Martinez go for 50-odd million. They already got their money, and they just said yes because they couldn't believe that they liked Antony. He was a talented player. They couldn't believe it was like 80, 90 million pounds. 100 million euros. They couldn't believe that. You spend 100 million euros, you're expecting the finished article, aren't you?
Yeah.
You are. You're expecting the finished article. I mean, look,
you could bid for Harry Kane for that.
City paid 100 million for Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
And they ended up winning a treble with him in season 2.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, his numbers aren't unbelievable in terms of assists and goals. But when you look at his performance levels, you look at him on Sunday out on that pitch, he's a bloody good player. I mean, what I'm saying, you might not think he's 100 million, but I tell you, he's a hell of a player. His way in which he can take the ball, the way in which he passes it, looks after it, wins fouls, takes people on. He's a good player, Jack Grealish. You know what I mean? Whether you like his 100 million or you don't like his 100 million, he fits into City's style of play. And United, I thought that with Antony coming in, with Mount coming in, I thought we would become a real technical passing team. But we're not. We're still a counter-attack team. So at the moment, I think it'd be really unfair of me. I've got worries about both. Of course I have. We all have. Because we've paid £160 million, £150 million for 2 players that you think, well, will they go on to become players that can win Manchester United the league? Every player we buy should be a stepping stone towards winning the league. That's it. Think about that, just as a statement. You're buying a player not to get you into top 4. Right, you're not buying a player to get you into top 4. Now, you might sign a 1-year contract with an older player to get you through a season, like a goalkeeper, or it might be a forward. Or we got Vegas on loan. Bad example, but he got us through 5 months. Maybe some will say not very well. Sabitzer, he got us through 5 months. It wasn't a 4-year deal. They're short-term deals. That's fine. That they happened back in the day. We signed Erik Larsson. Now, Erik Larsson was a beauty of a player and a brilliant lad, and he's world class. So it was a great 5 months for us to have Erik, or a few months to have Erik Larsson. But when you're signing a player at United, it should be, does this player get us to compete with Manchester City, with Arsenal, with the other clubs? Now, the players that we've signed, I don't think do. I watch every other club a lot. I've only watched United on Sky once this year. That's twice, Arsenal away and the game on Saturday. And I've been to a few other games when I can. But I've watched City 4 times. I watched Arsenal 5 times. I've watched Tottenham 3 times. I've watched Liverpool 3 times. And I've watched Chelsea, I think, 3 or 4 times. They're all better than us.
Have we got a world-class player out there, Gary?
Bruno Fernandes is a world-class.
World-class? Getting any of the top?
I think, look, at the end of the day, I think Bruno Fernandes is a world-class player. I think that the numbers that he gets of assists and goals, I think he's world-class, honestly. Now, do I think that, he should be captain? Probably not. Do I think that he lets himself down at times on the pitch? Yes. But then that's just his temperament and the way in which he is. But honestly, you cannot question his ability and his talent. He's fantastic as a football player. Even some of the passes he made on Sunday in the last 10, 15 minutes when he got the ball, I think, right, you're a brilliant player. You're bloody frustrating, but you're a good player. I think he's a world-class player. Personally, I think he is.
That's only one player, Gary, what comes to mind. And people
I love Hojlund.
You might love him, Gary, but he's
He's
not
not
world
no,
class.
he's not world class.
But this is
he's
what
a
I'm saying.
player.
And
Hojlund,
this is look. You played in a team. What changed? You ended up with like 2 or 3 teams.
right, Hojlund is
all
a player.
world-class players.
Hojlund is a player.
That's what people
Hojlund
want
is
to
a
know.
player that fits the Manchester United profile of player.
Yeah.
He's young. He's got plenty of growth. He's strong. I think I'd hate to play against him. I would love to have seen him up front with Cantona. I'd love to see him up front with York. I'd love to see him up front with Coley. I'd love to see him up front with Wazza. If him and Wazza were up front, they'd beat everyone up. But you know something? At the moment, he's having to be the man, not the assistant to the man, which is what he should be, really.
Yeah.
You know, if he was up front with Harry Kane or if he was up front with any of them players I've mentioned, we'd be looking at someone rampant and rampaging through people. We've got some good players, don't get me wrong. So it's not all doom and gloom. Let's finish on a high. Because I need to go now, Tony. It's like a documentary.
But I've just got to say this. One world-class player, Gary's told us. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I'm telling you, we need 11. You've got some money to come out your pocket.
I wasn't world class.
Bruno.
No, but I wasn't. When when Sir Alex Ferguson was manager, we didn't have 11 world class players.
Gary, you never go and blow your own trumpet.
No,
do
but
you? I'm calling you world class.
Thanks for that. Well,
that's
end on
good
that.
enough.
Well done.